Today we're going to be learning about the quadratic equation. The quadratic equation is probably seen by many of you before, and it can be a little bit intimidating. This is whenever we have x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So, when do we use this? We use this whenever we have equations of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. This kind of question is going to give us two answers because this is the equation of a parabola. A parabola would look something like this, and it could cross the x-axis at 2 points. We're looking for whenever the parabola crosses the x-axis. It's also, of course, possible that the parabola crosses the x-axis only at 1 point, or that it does not cross the x-axis at all. So we could get 2, 1, or 0 solutions from this equation. And we'll look into that a little bit later with the determinant. Let's do an example problem. We have x squared minus 5x minus 14 equals 0. So we have our equation at the top here. Matt, can you tell me what b is in this equation?
Is b 14?
That would actually be c.
Okay.
You see how c, there's no x after the 14?
Okay. Would that mean that b is 5x?
Close. It's negative 5.
It's negative 5.
B is negative 5. What is a?
Is a 0?
Good thought. It's actually 1. So we could imagine a 1 in front of this x squared.
Okay, so a isn't x squared, it's the 1 in front of the x squared.
Exactly. This is called the coefficient, the number in front of the variable. What is c going to be equal to?
C is negative 14.
Yes, perfect. So this is huge. Off to the side, I'm going to put a equals 1, b equals negative 5, c equals negative 14. Now, can you begin to solve or plug in the variables to our quadratic equation?
Yes. X equals, is it minus 5, or does the minus cancel out?
Right, the minus would cancel out, so negative of negative 5 becomes positive 5, or just 5, right?
Yeah. So that would be 5 plus or minus. Or is that solving for the plus or minus by determining its final? Okay. Plus or minus negative 5 squared.
And I put it in parentheses because the negative gets squared as well.
Okay. Minus 4 times 1 times negative 14 over 2 times 1.
Nice. Good stuff. Let's clean this up a little bit. I am going to first split this into two separate equations. One of them is going to have the plus, one of them is going to have the minus. This plus minus is going to split this into two separate equations. So let's start with the plus equation. Negative of negative 5 is just 5. We're just going to take the plus here. Matt, what is negative 5 squared equal to?
Isn't that 25?
Yeah, exactly. Negative 5 times negative 5 is positive 25. All right, now we have minus. What is 4 times 1?
4 times 1 is 4.
Times negative 14. 4 times negative 14.
That equals negative 56.
Nice. And 2 times 1?
2.
Perfect. Let's put a little dotted line here. Let's do this for our negative 2. Can you read out this equation, what it should be?
5 minus the square root of 25 minus negative 56.
I'll make that plus 56 here. Well, I'll just keep it minus negative 56 for now.
Oh, because we can convert those two minuses into a plus as well. That'll be our next step. Over 2.
Yeah. Step 1 in solving it. let's simplify. So now you have 5 plus the square root and 25 plus 56 over 2.
This is 5 minus 25 plus 56 over 2.
Perfect. Go ahead and do 25 plus 56.
81.
Do you know the square root of 81?
Isn't the square root of 81 9?
Yes. All right, we're about done here. 5 plus 9 over 2. Can you solve that?
That would be 14 divided by 2, and that would make x 7.
Perfect. That's one of our solutions. How about 5 minus 9 over 2?
5 minus 9 is negative 4, divided by 2 would give us negative 2.
Those are our two solutions. Good stuff. So you just solved your first problem using the quadratic equation. Let's bring it to the next page, and we're going to do another example. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Our problem is going to be x squared plus 15x equals negative 50. Now, what's the problem here? Remember, we need this to be in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0.
So I believe we don't have a variable for c.
We don't.
So we have to solve for c, and it looks like negative 50. Is that at least one of our final points that we have?
It's a good thought here, but we need this right side of the equation to be equal to 0, right?
Okay. Could we add 50 to the other side and make c 50?
What does that give us?
So that's x squared plus 50x plus 50 equals 0.
Perfect. Is this the correct form?
I believe it is.
Yeah. What are our a, b, and c values?
Our b value is 15. Our c value is 50. And a equals 1.
Perfect. All right, go ahead and plug this in for our main equation.
X equals negative 15 plus the square root 15 squared minus 4 times 1 times 50 divided by 2 times 1.
Perfect. And then what would our second equation be?
Our second equation is negative 15 minus the square root of 15 squared minus 4 times 1 times 50 divided by 2 times 1.
Nice. All right, let's speed this along. Do you want to try and simplify everything inside the square root on your calculator? Tell us what you're typing in.
Okay, so 15 times 15 equals 225. So 225 minus 4 times 1 times 50 is 200, and that would be over 2. Then on the other side, it would be 15 minus that same problem. Negative 15 plus the square root of 25 over 2, and then it'd be negative 15 minus square root of 25 over 2. And the square root of 25 is 5, so that'd be negative 15 plus 5 over 2, and then negative 15 minus 5 over 2. Negative 15 plus 5 is negative 10, divided by 2 is negative 5 as our x for that. Negative 15 minus 5 is negative 20, divided by 2 is negative 10.
Now I'm going to give us one more, and this one's going to be quite a bit harder. So again, I'll put x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a, and we have to remember the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. We need to get it into this form before we can use the quadratic. Our question's going to be y squared minus 16y plus 61 equals 2y minus 20. So y and x are the same thing. I could have put a, b, c, d, any variable here, and it would work. I could replace the variable with theta or any Greek letter. Doesn't matter, it's the same as x.
I guess the simplest place to start is to add 20 to the other side of the problem.
Nice, let's start there. What else should we subtract from the right side?
We need to make it 0. So it's possible we could divide it by 2y and divide the 16y on the other side.
Not divide, but subtract 2y. To get to 0, you just subtract it out. What's that give us on the left side?
Y squared minus 14y
Close.
plus,
18y, because negative 16y minus 2y.
so that takes us to the negatives, minus 18y plus 81 equals 0.
Nice. Now we're good for our form. Can you say A, B, and C?
Yes. A is 1, B is negative 18, and C is 81.
All right, go ahead and walk us through the quadratic.
X equals
Or actually, this would technically be y, right?
a y equals.
That's my bad.
Y equals, wouldn't it be 18? Because the two minuses would cancel out. Plus the square root of negative 18 squared minus 4 times 1 times 81 divided by 2 times 1. And for the other point, 18 minus the square root of negative 18 squared minus 4 times 1 times 81 divided by 2 times 1.
Perfect. Let's just focus completely on the left side first.
Negative 18 squared is 36. So that would be 18 plus the square root.
18 times 18, right?
Oh, wait, no, that's 2 times 18. I have to use a calculator for that. 324, actually. Minus 4 times 1 times 81. So I'm going to type in 4 times 81. And that equals 324 over 2. 324 minus 324 is 0. I'm assuming the square root of 0 is 0. So 18 divided by 2 equals 9.
And on the right side, would it be any different?
I don't think it would be.
But this is still a parabola. What's happening is it's intersecting the axis. I mean, this is the y-axis, so it could be like sideways or something. But I'm just going to give an example of this. This isn't this one. But a parabola can always intersect at a single point.
Oh, so this is on the x-axis without crossing it.
Exactly. That's always a possibility. Now we're going to get into one more concept. We're going to break this up a little bit. Negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac over 2a. This part that's inside of the square root, this is called the determinant. So the determinant's really useful because the b squared minus 4ac, the determinant, if this is greater than 0, you have two solutions. And this makes sense because if it's greater than 0, then you're going to get an actual positive value here. And if you take the square root of a positive value and do plus or minus of that, it's going to give you two possible answers. If b squared minus 4ac is equal to 0, like we just got, there is one solution. Right? Because you can do plus or minus 0, it's still going to give you just that one solution, just like we just got here with plus or minus 0. The third option, b squared minus 4ac, is less than 0. This will give no solutions. And that's because if you take the square root of any negative number, this does not exist. What's the square root of negative 1? What can be multiplied by itself that's equal to negative 1?
I would think only 1.
1 times 1 is 1.
And negative 1 times 1
Negative 1 times
Okay.
1 is negative 1, but that's not the same number being multiplied by itself, is it? It's impossible to take the square root of a negative number with only real numbers. Kind of a fun side note, but in math, they make a little imaginary number, I, and this is defined as being equal to the square root of negative 1. What you could say is if you ever get something like the determinant in the quadratic equation is 0, then you can actually say, this doesn't have a solution. This will never happen. This could be the case if I said, let's say I threw a ball into the air. This has a nice parabolic arc. It gets to its highest point, comes back down to the ground. It's all good. Now, if I asked when is this ball going to reach some height that is well above its arc that it ever gets to, you're going to say that never happens. So you can actually see this would have hit the ground at this point and this point. These can be represented by distances or by times. However, at no distance and at no time will it ever reach this height based off of this parabola.
So the previous problem we did, we found out that there was one answer. When before, a parabola usually gives us two answers because it's two separate points going across the axis. But now we're learning that it's possible that with the numbers we're given, there's no answer because it can't be determined in reality, basically.
Yeah, exactly. There's no answer because you can't take the square root of a negative number. So let's try a quick question like that. I'm going to give you 2x squared minus 15x minus 2 equals 0. Without using the quadratic, can you tell me how many answers there are in this question? We have to use the determinant.
Would there be two answers?
Let's try it out. B squared minus 4ac. I think you're right, but let's plug it in. We have negative 15 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 2. 225. This becomes plus because it's minus minus 16. That's greater than 0, right?
It is.
Perfect. So 2 solutions. How about for this one? Let's do 10x squared minus 4x plus 5 equals 0. How many solutions?
Negative 4 squared minus 4 times 5 times 10? Yeah, but it's 10 times 5 because the 10 is A and the 5 is the C variable.
But the order doesn't matter too much there.
So negative 4 squared is 2.
Careful, negative 4 squared is 16.
Oh, 16.
I think you took the square root.
Yeah, I did. Minus 200. And that would be negative 184.
Right, so it's less than 0, right?
It's less than 0, and would that mean that there is 0 solutions?
Exactly. The last one we'll get at, z squared plus 4z plus 4 equals 0.
We know that c is 4. Could we say that z squared, could we make that 1z? Could that be 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times 4 equals 0?
Do we know it's equal to 0?
Oh, not that part, no. I forgot that we're making b squared minus 4 times ac. We don't know what the answer is yet.
No worries.
So 4 squared is 16 minus 16. Okay. So now we've determined that the answer is in fact 0 by calculating it. But because it's 0, we know that it's one solution.
Perfect. Nice. Awesome. Good stuff, Matt.